After suffering his second ankle sprain of the season, the comparisons between Trae Young and Steph Curry are naturally going to extend beyond their playing abilities and talk more about their ankle injuries. And I have to say, based on things we see with their similar playing styles and their injury history, I think these concerns are pretty warranted. Welcome back everyone to your #1 source for learning about everything related to sports injuries and sports medicine news. In this video, I'm going to talk about Trae Young's second ankle injury that he just suffered, and some of these comparisons between Trae Young's ankle injuries and what we saw happen with Steph Curry. We'll take a look at the footage of both this most recent sprain and the one he suffered earlier in the season and compare and contrast the two, and then we'll look at direct comparisons between some of the ankle sprains that Curry suffered and what these look like with Trae Young, to give you kind of some sense of why I think there is a lot of overlap here. We'll then finish up by discussing his upcoming rehab and what this might mean for the rest of his season and any changes he should make, including talking about these shoes he was wearing. Make sure and go subscribe, get those notifications turned on to stay up to date as soon as anything happens. Also go check out my Twitter for more information kind of real time on these topics, and let's get started. Running through this, of course, here, Trae Young is driving into the lane, and keep a close eye on his right foot because that's the one that was injured. As he comes in here, he takes a step, plants that right leg, and then as he's trying to move forward, it almost looks like his foot sort of gets caught on George Hill as George Hill's kind of falling away, and there we can see his ankle go into that sort of classic inversion type position for the sprain. If we look at another view of this, we can see him plant that right foot, and then as he sort of takes that next step to get that right foot forward, as he's advancing it forward, George Hill comes through here, seems to make some contact with the bottom of Trae Young's foot, and then we can just see right there, it's just that tiny, tiny little tweak that causes his foot to plant like that and cause a little bit of that ankle injury. So just from what we see on the video, this looks to be another classic inversion type of ankle sprain, which is the most common ones that we see. Let's go back to his earlier ankle sprain, also to that right foot, to again draw some comparisons. So as we see Trae Young coming down the court here, keep an eye on that right foot. As he's coming through and landing, we can see in just the tiniest little motion here coming up that right foot lands on Kendrick Nunn's foot. And again, it's just this slight little twist of the ankle that happens right there. Backing that up again, just ever so slightly does he make contact with Kendrick Nunn's foot, causes that brief, quick little inversion type of injury pattern. Here we can see another view of it. Again, that right foot comes down, the heel makes contact with Kendrick Nunn's foot, and then we just get that quick little twist that causes that injury to those ligaments. I want to mention too here, what's the deal with these shoes that Trae Young is wearing? Looks to me like there is absolutely no support at the ankle in these shoes. They're slip-on, they look like they're a little bit loose, and certainly this stretchy mesh material up by the ankle is giving him no support whatsoever. He's also not wearing an ankle brace, and we know that ankle braces help to prevent these ankle injuries. They don't eliminate them entirely, but they do make a difference. So he's not wearing an ankle brace, he's wearing shoes that don't appear to have very good ankle support. These are all things that can contribute to such a kind of minor impact type of thing, causing another ankle sprain. I will say the most recent injury looks to be less severe than the earlier one. He was able to put more weight on it, and he didn't seem to overall be in as much pain. I think he was only out for about a week after his first ankle sprain and then came back and been doing pretty well. Both of these ankle sprains look like classic lateral ankle sprains with an inversion type of mechanism. So why do I think some of these comparisons with Steph Curry could be justified? Both of these ankle sprains we've seen in Trae Young have occurred with some contact to another player's foot, but they've been relatively mild levels of contact. These haven't been big serious falls stepping directly on someone's foot that causes the sprain. Both of these have been very sort of mild tweaks of the ankle where you would hope that the ankle has enough structural integrity to avoid having a sprain in such a low impact type of situation. Looking back here at a couple of Steph Curry's ankle injuries, he had a habit of spraining his ankle when he wasn't making any contact with another player. There were a number of times where just based on the way that he played, he would take off starting to run, and that right ankle would just get sort of caught on the toes, and he would have a quick little snap, a quick little inversion type of injury. And it was these repetitive little inversion injuries that built up and led to the point where he had such significant problems. If we look back here at tonight's ankle sprain from Trae Young, again, it's hard to tell how much of an impact George Hill's foot had in causing this, but again, it's that sort of similar quick little motion that causes that little quick rotation of the ankle. And to me, these look like very similar sorts of patterns. Throwing up side by side here, hopefully you can kind of see what I'm talking about with some of the similarities with how the ankle and the foot is moving under these types of scenarios. Again though, Trae Young's both appeared to make contact with another player, which takes away some of the foot's ability to protect itself, but hopefully you see sort of some of the overlap here with how the foot and the ankle is moving. The big similarity I see between these two guys though is the way that they play that makes them susceptible to these types of injuries. Both guys rely on this sort of shiftiness, quick change of direction, quick drive, hesitate, cut, plant. They're doing a lot of these quick little movements that rely on really fast reaction times at the ankle. As I said earlier, Curry got caught in these circumstances where his foot would just catch as he was trying to shift and change direction or stop and start. Trae Young plays that same sort of style, and we've already seen him have 2 ankle sprains in similar types of positions. Both of Trae Young's ankle sprains look like they probably affected what we call the ATFL. That's the ligament most commonly injured in an ankle sprain, and it's the anterior talo, meaning the talus, fibula, ligament running between the fibula and the talus. This ligament's most often injured whenever the foot is in plantar flexion, meaning pointed down. This is what it looked like happened with both of Trae Young's injuries. His foot was pointed down whenever he then had the ankle turn. You can tell whenever I point the foot down severely, that's going to cause that ligament to pull even more, combined with then turning it inward, causing the sprain. You can see how it puts that added stress there on the ligament. This is in contrast to when the foot is pointed up and then rolls in. As you can tell, there's not nearly as much stress that gets put on that ligament when the foot's pointed up compared to whenever it happens and the foot is pointed down and then turns inward. Now, what's the possible long-term implication here for Trae Young? Trae Young's initial ankle sprain was at the end of October, so he's about 2 months from that initial injury, which means there should be a sufficient amount of time for those ligaments to heal up pretty well. But it's never back to the way it was before having a sprain. And so now that he's had an additional injury to what looks like likely the same ligament, you just knock it down a step further. As we saw with Steph Curry, when you have sprain after sprain that, you come back after a week or two and then you have another, you're out for 5 days, you come back, you have another a few weeks later, you just lose more and more integrity within that ligament before finally there's just nothing there to provide the support. Now, thankfully, like Steph Curry did, there are ways to correct this. There's ways to do rehab and exercises to give your ankle more structural support from the surrounding structures, like the different muscles. You can work on your biomechanics, strengthening your hips, strengthening your balance, to try to limit these types of things from happening. But with each subsequent ankle sprain, that risk of having chronic ankle problems just goes higher and higher. It's estimated that around 40% of all lateral ankle sprains, like we've seen here with Trae Young, lead to something called chronic ankle instability, which is just this long-term susceptibility to having weakness and instability at the ankle that leads to more and more ankle sprains. Now, at the time of recording this, we haven't heard any other official updates from the team about how severe this might be. I will say this doesn't look classic for a high ankle sprain, and it doesn't look classic for a foot injury, but those will be important things to think about and keep in mind if we do get more information from the Hawks. So while it looks like Trae Young has avoided serious injury for now, this is stuff that's just going to keep building, and this risk is going to keep climbing, similar to what we saw happen with Steph Curry. Thank you as always for watching the video, everybody. Let me know any questions or comments you have below, and I'll see you in the next one.